Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. It's not every day you get a second chance at happiness. I was living proof of that. After years of putting others first, my daughters especially, I finally got started to rebuild my life. But let me start from the beginning. I met my late ex-husband Paul in my early 20s. He was a good man, and we had a happy enough marriage for a time. It wasn't a perfect marriage, but we had one bright, undeniable joy: our daughter, Lisa. But like many couples, we eventually drifted apart. By the time our daughter, Lisa, was 10, we decided to go our separate ways. The divorce was civil, and we agreed that Lisa's stability was our top priority. Paul legally kept the house as it was his from the beginning, and we came to an agreement. The house would be put in a trust until Lisa turned 18. Until then, I'd live there with her. Once she reached adulthood, the house would become hers outright, free and clear. For years, that arrangement worked just fine. Paul and I kept things civil, and Lisa grew up in her childhood home filled with love. I kept up my job, maintained the house, and made sure she never felt the strain of divorce. When Paul passed away unexpectedly, it was devastating, but Lisa and I leaned on each other and got through it. By the time she turned 18, nothing much changed. The house became hers, but I continued to live there with her. It was our home, and it felt natural to stay together. Things changed when Lisa turned 25. She met Darren, a charming but, in my opinion, slippery character. I never liked him. From the moment they started dating, I felt something was off. Darren had that kind of charm that makes people overlook the warning signs. The quick smiles, the endless promises, the vague stories about his big plans. I didn't trust him, but Lisa was smitten. The relationship moved fast. Too fast, if you ask me. After 2 months, Darren proposed. 6 months after they met, they were married. I tried to talk to Lisa before the wedding, gently raising my concerns. She dismissed me, saying I didn't understand. "We're in love," she told me. "He's the one." I let it go, hoping that maybe I was wrong and that Darren would prove himself to be a good partner. At the wedding, my concerns grew. I watched Darren flirt openly with Lisa's friends, laughing a little too loudly at their jokes, standing a little too close during conversations. I pointed it out to Lisa afterward, but she waved it off. "He's just being friendly," she said. I bit my tongue, not wanting to ruin her big day. After the honeymoon, Darren moved into the house with us. Sure, he didn't have a home of his own. Darren was full of big ideas. He wanted to start a business, launch a brand, disrupt the industry. But he never seemed to actually do any work. He'd talk about his plans endlessly, but when it came time to follow through, he always had an excuse. Lisa, blinded by love, took on the role of provider. She worked long hours, paid all the bills, and funded his endless projects. The house was hers, but Darren made it feel like his. Then, virus hit, and I lost my job. For years, I had contributed to the household in every way I could. I covered groceries, utilities, repairs, anything Lisa needed, I made sure we had. But when the pandemic swept in, my position was eliminated, and I found myself out of work. I was careful with what savings I had, using them sparingly so I wouldn't be a burden. But Darren made it clear he resented my presence. "Another mouth to feed," he called me, as if I hadn't spent decades providing for my family. He started dropping hints. "Wouldn't it be easier if your mom found her own place?" And eventually it stopped being subtle. One day, Lisa sat me down. She looked uncomfortable, but determined. "I need to save my marriage," she said. "Darren feels like you living here is putting a strain on things. I think it's best if you move out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After all we'd been through, after everything I had done for her, she was asking me to leave my home. I tried to reason with her. I told her Darren wasn't who she thought he was, and he was using her. She wouldn't hear it. She said she had made this decision for her marriage. So I packed up my things and I left. I moved in with my mother, who welcomed me without hesitation. It wasn't easy starting over, but I did. I found another job, worked hard, and began to rebuild my life. Over time, I met someone new, a kind, loving man named Rick. He made me feel valued and respected in a way I hadn't felt in years. We eventually married, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. Lisa, meanwhile, never called. She never checked in, never asked how I was doing. I reached out a few times, but she never picked up. It was as if I no longer existed. It hurt, but I made peace with it. I told myself that maybe she was happy, and that was enough. I turned my focus to my own happiness and moved forward. Then, one day, Lisa showed up on my doorstep. She was a mess, red eyes, tear-streaked cheeks, and 2 suitcases in hand. "Mom, I need your help," she said. It turns out that Darren had convinced her to take out a mortgage on the house to fund one of his big business ideas. Predictably, it failed. They couldn't afford the payments, the bank foreclosed, and they lost the house. If that wasn't enough, Darren had moved in with another woman. Now Lisa had nowhere to go. I stood there, listening to her story, feeling a mix of sadness and anger. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay, but I also couldn't forget how easily she'd cast me aside when I needed her. I thought about Rick, about the life we'd built, and I knew what I had to say. "I'm sorry, Lisa," I told her, "but Rick doesn't want an extra mouth to feed." Her face crumbled. "What? But I'm your daughter," she said. "And I was your mother when you told me to leave my home," I replied. She burst into tears and accused me of being cruel. She said I was unworthy of being called a mother. It hurt to hear those words, but I couldn't let her back in. I couldn't disrupt the life I had rebuilt, not after everything we'd been through. Now my family is calling me heartless. They're saying I'm abandoning my child in her time of need, that I'm failing as a parent. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should have welcomed her back with open arms. But I can't shake the feeling that I've done enough, that I've sacrificed enough. Am I really the a-hole for protecting my own happiness after being kicked out of my own home? OP is not the a-hole. It's not like OP threw her out of the house for no reason. OP was asked to leave because of her husband's insecurities. OP worked hard to rebuild her life, and now she expects OP to bail her out when she made her bed. She needs to take responsibility for her decisions. OP is not a hotel she can check into when her plans fall apart. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. You gave her stability her whole life, supported her throughout her marriage, and even left your home when she asked. For her to show up now and expect you to open your door without any acknowledgement of what she put you through is just entitled. It's not about being cruel. It's about not letting yourself be taken advantage of again. Not the a-hole. She made her choices. She chose Darren over you, and chose to take out that mortgage, and she chose to ignore your warnings. Actions have consequences, and it's not on you to clean up her mess. You did what you could as her parent, and at some point, she has to take ownership of her own life. Not the a-hole. She kicked you out to save her marriage, didn't contact you for years, and now wants your help when things fall apart? That's not how relationships work. You're not cruel. You're just finally prioritizing yourself. She's an adult. It's time she starts acting like one. Update. So, my daughter ended up moving in with my mother after I turned her away. I thought maybe this would be a wake-up call for her, a chance to reflect and start piecing her life back together. At first, my mom told me she was happy to take her in, saying she's your daughter and she needs her family right now. I respected her decision and hoped it would work out. A week later, my mom called me, practically in tears. "She's out of control," she said. According to my mom, my daughter's been drinking heavily, smoking indoors, despite my mom's repeated pleas not to, and bringing random men home at all hours. Mom says she's asked her to stop, to show a little respect, but my daughter ignores her. Instead, she brushes her off, acts entitled, and does whatever she pleases. It's heartbreaking to hear. This was the same girl who used to come home from school so excited to tell me about her day, who worked hard to get into college, who cared deeply about her family and her future. Now, she's a shadow of that person. And I can't help but think about Darren, how he manipulated her, isolated her, and ultimately turned her into someone I barely recognize. My mom has been pleading with me to reconsider, to let her move in with me and my husband. She's your daughter, she says. You can't just turn your back on her. But my husband, bless him, has been my rock through all of this. He keeps telling me, it's your decision, and whatever you choose, I'll support you. and my decision is to stick to my original stance. I just can't open that door again. Not after how she treated me. Not after what she's become. Now my mom has taken it to a whole new level. She's threatening to disown me if I don't take my daughter in. I couldn't believe it. First, my daughter turns her back on me, and now my mom is too? It feels like my whole family is falling apart, and I'm being blamed for trying to protect myself. It hurts, I'm not going to lie. This whole situation hurts more than I ever imagined it would. But at this point, I don't see any other option. My daughter has changed so much, and until she's willing to take responsibility for herself, I can't let her back into my life. My husband understands, and for now, that's enough. I, 26 female, have been in a relationship with my fiancé, Rayon, 28 male, for 8 years. We met my first year of college through my best friend, his cousin, Priya. Last 8 years have been magical, and couldn't have asked for a better partner to grow with. Within those years, we both graduated as engineers, landed amazing jobs, and grew within our companies fairly quickly, allowing both of us to be very well off financially. We bought our dream home, got engaged, moved in together, traveled the world, and had our now 2-year-old daughter. During these 8 years, he has met everyone in my family, and they adore him. For some reason, I didn't get to meet his. Whenever I asked when he'd introduce me, he told me what seemed like valid excuses. Big one being his parents mostly staying back home. He loved me and treated me amazingly, so I didn't give him a hard time about it. His cousin also confirmed everything he said. Rayan has been wanting to go to Pakistan to help his family for a while. He finally decided 2022 was the year. Told me he was going for 2 months, but informed me, while away, that he might have to stay for 6. During his time away, Priya came to stay with me for a bit. One day while on FaceTime with her mom, I was sitting next to her. Her mom said she was invited to a wedding back home and asked Priya if she wanted to come along. Long story short, we found out it was Rayan's wedding, which obviously shattered me. Couldn't believe it, to be honest. Priya and I decided to show up without him knowing. After running it with my family, went to Pakistan and arrived at his wedding looking fine as duck. I thought he was being forced until I saw how overjoyed he was. When he saw us, he looked like he just saw a ghost. I also had our daughter who ran and hugged him. He looked shattered while holding her. Priya privately informed his wife with proof, and I still don't know how that went down. I danced the night away with our kid, enjoyed the food, music, and drinks, and he was literally frozen. We flew back home the next day, and he has been blowing my phone up since. Everyone thinks I should have announced everything at his wedding, but I'm good. Just the fact that I enjoyed his wedding more than he did was enough. I decided to take a getaway trip outside the country with my daughter, and honestly don't want to come back to our cold state. I love it here and might consider moving here with her. I found out he cut his trip short and has been completely shattered he might never see us again. He clearly chose his parents' wishes, new wife, over me and my daughter, so he shouldn't have access to us. And for that, his friends say I'm the a-hole. So I'm the a-hole for crashing his wedding and not talking to him. And would I be the a-hole if he loses access to our kid, at least for now? Not the a-hole for crashing his wedding, but you're kind of my hero now. That sounds awesome. I can't imagine how intense it had to be and heartbreaking. But you do have a child together, so you will have to come to some kind of an agreement. re, him seeing his daughter, if he wants to. You would totally be the a-hole for withholding the child from him. Not the a-hole for crashing the wedding. That was brilliant. But denying him access to his child will hurt your child. Don't do it. Take the high road, straight to court for the child support. I don't plan on denying him access to our child. She deserves to have her father in her life. But he kept her a secret, and his family besides his cousin, and her family don't know about our little girl. If he wants her in his life, he needs to introduce her and make her priority. Not the a-hole, but I would be more concerned about what he and his family would do with your daughter if they were to get her into their custody. As a woman, her rights as yours may be far more limited where they take her away from you into another country. As an unmarried woman, in their eyes, and possibly in the eyes of the government of their country, you would possibly be viewed as unfit to keep your daughter. Please be careful not to leave your daughter alone with him or his family. You may not think he's capable of doing anything towards your daughter, but you didn't know he was capable of abandoning you to marry someone of his family's choosing. You obviously don't know him as well as you thought, through no fault of your own. He was literally leading a double life. So please don't trust him with your daughter. My family is Vietnamese, and our parents were typical Viet parents. They immigrated to the U.S., and the entire time we were growing up, they emphasized the importance of education. They pushed us hard, and extracurricular activities that didn't boost our chance of getting into college were not allowed. I hated seeing my friends join the cheerleading squad while I had to be in band. My friends were able to go to school dances while I had to go to tutoring. I resented my parents for many years and told them so. Their answer were always the same: hate us all you want now, but thank us later. I'm now a surgeon, and all my siblings have high-paying careers. The siblings with the lowest salary makes almost $160,000 a year as a supervising pharmacist in a hospital. We're all living very well and are very happy with our lives. Now that I'm a mother, I can admit that my parents were right. My sister, an attorney, is married to Bill. He's not Asian and works as a chef at a restaurant. Unlike movies or cooking shows, he's only making about $50,000 a year while his wife is pulling in about $500,000 as a partner in her firm. Over Christmas, we were gathered at my parents', and I was asked by my niece, my brother's daughter, about my career. Her parents are pushing her into the medical field, and she wanted to know what it takes. During our conversation, she said she wants to be a teacher and not a doctor. She told me she feels pressured into studying too much and can't enjoy life like her friends. I pointed out that I went through the exact same thing, and teaching won't give her the life she's accustomed. I said if she's a doctor, she can always teach on the side. I told her about a colleague who's also a physician and volunteers to teach in his old high school. Brother-in-law overheard us and chimed in about how she should follow her dream of teaching because money does not equal happiness. He pointed out that he makes as much as a teacher and lives a great life. I didn't appreciate his nosiness, so I replied that he has a great life because my sister makes 10 times his salary and bought him his brand new $125,000 electric car for Christmas. I turned to my niece and told her unless she wants to live off of someone, she needs to make her own money. Brother-in-law got his feelings hurt and went to complain to my sister. She told me I was wrong to say that to brother-in-law and that I should apologize. I'm refusing since I only stated the truth. But now they're refusing to come to my house for Viet New Year. I'm hosting the entire family, unless I apologize. I didn't appreciate his nosiness. Wow, you're the a-hole for this alone. Bill heard his niece getting some very one-sided advice. He chimed in with his perspective, which he is just as much entitled to as you are to yours, and which is just as valuable to your niece as yours is. That's not nosiness. That's looking out for his niece, exactly the same thing you were doing. Your ad hominem attack was completely uncalled for, and it's sad that with all your education, you haven't yet learned that money doesn't buy happiness. If it did, there wouldn't be so many miserable rich people. I'm glad you're satisfied with your life, truly. But as a single woman working for a nonprofit at nonprofit wages, I assure you there are many different ways to achieve a good life. Not the a-hole. Truth is indisputable. He used himself as an example of happiness when his happiness is based on the hard work of his wife. Sure, money isn't everything, but if he wasn't married to his wife, his life would look very different than it does now. I'm not a fan of parents forcing kids into careers. Your niece is not you, and the world she's growing up in is very different. Your ability to deal with your parents' expectations are different than hers. I'd caution you to support your niece in whatever career path she chooses, whether it is teaching or medicine. There is value to great teachers and great doctors. Society needs both. Not the a-hole. You were being honest. There's nothing wrong with following a dream. But if you expect a certain lifestyle and that dream doesn't fund that, then the truth needs to be told. Brother-in-law can surely see he gets to do a job he loves and has no stress because someone else earns the coin. I mean, these are all facts. Kids need facts to make their own decisions. I have 3 sisters. We are all close with my mom and have a good relationship with her. I'm 32 female, married with 3 young children. My second sister, 30 female, is single, and my third, 26 female, is married with no kids. Yet. We are all in unconventional, financially unsteady vocations. My mom married my stepfather last year. My mom has life insurance totaling $130K. She's not the healthiest, so talk about death plans has come up to prepare for the future. She previously named each of us as her insurance beneficiaries. Stepfather 25%, me 25%, sister number 1 25%, sister number 2 25%. We've been insurance beneficiaries since we were teenagers, and my mom divorced my dad. But now, she suddenly announced that she decided to give 100% of the insurance benefits to her new husband. I expressed that I was confused about this because she had previously officially designated to each of us a 25% share to help us all after she passes. I reminded her that her husband would receive 100% of her Social Security benefits, thousands of dollars, and 100% of her bank account, which is understandable to me, but to leave all of us out of her life insurance as beneficiaries felt dismissive of us. She said $130K doesn't go far in America, and that her husband needs all of that money and more to help him with all of his costs after she dies. She's worried he'll struggle after she dies. I told her even if he gets a larger portion of life insurance, 40% for him, 20% each for us siblings, it makes more sense than leaving us out completely. She said again, I don't want him to be poor. I said, okay, what about us? You have 3 grandkids. My own monthly earnings is already a struggle as a missionary. Sisters number 1 and number 2 are artists and work on commission, which is up and down depending on if anyone buys their work. We are all on the low-income spectrum. Do you not care about helping us at all when you die? She said she never said she doesn't care, but she just wants to give 100% to her husband. She said her mom didn't leave her any money when she died. I told her that grandma actually had no money to give, no life insurance, inheritance, whereas you have $130K plus guaranteed when you die, and you are choosing to leave us with literally 0% while giving your new husband 100%. She said finally that if her husband died, she wouldn't want to be equal to his kids, and therefore receive an equal share with his kids. She expects 100%, therefore she would give him 100%. She accused me of wanting a bunch of money and telling her what to do, so I told her I don't want any of the money, and her husband can have it all. I understand her husband comes in first place, but I didn't expect us to come in at 0 place. My sisters are also both upset at hearing the news that we are all left out. Am I the a-hole? Edit. We love our mom. I'm not waiting for her to die. I hope she lives until she's 100. If that's how that came off to you, sorry, not the intention. She has continually told us throughout the years that she wants to give us insurance money to help us after she dies. So this was a different direction she suddenly took. You're the a-hole. Her kids are grown and she has a husband she is thinking about. $130K spread around won't be a crazy amount to any kid, but for her husband, it could be very important. Nobody is owed an inheritance. You're the a-hole. You don't live in the household with her. After she is gone, new husband is going to take over 100% of the financial responsibility for her estate, i.e., paying for funeral costs, paying rent or mortgage on their house, paying for bills she previously contributed to, etc. She is not contributing to your household, therefore her death will not put any financial hardship on you. Regardless, it's her money and her decision, and it's not your place to pressure her to give you money, dead or living, because you are an adult. Not the a-hole. I can appreciate her wanting to make sure her husband is taken care of, but she doesn't want his shares to go to his kids if he were to pass first. Did I read that right? She can do what she wants, but I would be sketched out too. This life insurance has been in place for over 10 years, and now all of a sudden she changes it, and new hubby would get everything, including Social Security, bank accounts, retirement, etc. I would say yes the a-hole if they had been married for a long time, but it was just her and her kids for years. I'm not datelining all of this, and the kids aren't entitled to anything, but it just seems off that as a parent she wouldn't want to make sure her children are left without anything when she passes. For all those who are icked out by OP having this convo with her, I'm going to assume you have not lost a loved one. It's important to have all your affairs ironed out and communicated. This includes any health directives. Trying to pick up the pieces after a close loved one dies with nothing communicated from the deceased is an absolute nightmare. This situation happened a few months ago, but the holidays brought it up again. I hope I'm not the a-hole, but my judgment towards my sister is biased. Back in 2020, my mom lost her job, and I, 34 female, moved back in with her to pay the bills. I figured she earned it. My work hours are weird, as I work with people overseas from the US, and I work from home, from my computer, generally from the afternoon to about midnight. At the beginning of this year, my sister's, 38 female, rent was jacked up, and she couldn't afford her place anymore. She asked to move back into our mom's home so her 2 kids, 9 male and 7 female, could have space. To keep it short, I don't get along with my sister, but I love my niece and nephew, and agreed they would move in with 3 stipulations. 1. Don't touch my food, which I labeled. 2. No one touches the room I made my office. 3. As I sleep late, no noise before 10 in the morning. My sister agreed to these, but it didn't take long before she started pushing. My food started disappearing. She was complaining about me getting 2 rooms when her kids had to share. And she would non-stop make noise in the morning, saying they're just kids, when I'd yell at them to keep it down. It culminated when I was woken up at 8:30 by the kids screeching outside my door after I didn't get to sleep until 3 because, again, I was working. She told me to get a real job and join the real world, and we had a huge fight. I couldn't do it. I told my mom they had to leave. She reluctantly agreed. My sister apparently didn't realize I was paying the bills and argued with me a lot. She didn't think it was serious until she was basically thrown out and had to move in with our dad, who only has a 2-bedroom apartment. She's still pissed and started a fight about it over the holiday. Some of my aunts and uncles said I should have been more tolerant, since now she and 2 kids are sharing 1 room in Dad's apartment. But I'm pissed that I'm paying most of the bills and I wasn't allowed to keep my chips and soda to myself. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She agreed to the rules. When she started breaking the rules, she didn't apologize or want to try to negotiate new ones. She just made excuses and insulted you. What the duck is up with people who think remote work isn't a real job? Maybe she should get a better job herself if she can't afford to rent her own place. You're even paying the bills where you live at your mother's home. And no, again, you paid the bills and bought your own stuff. They could have bought theirs, not the a-hole. When I was a child, my father had shift work. Sometimes it was overnight. Me and all of my siblings were completely quiet until we left the house. We were young children. People think children are incapable of anything because they just don't want a parent. She is a complete a-hole. For the last couple of years, I've avoided spending Christmas with my family because I have a bad relationship with my brother, and my parents defend him when he says some pretty awful things, and we've had small Christmases because of the virus. But this year we were going to my grandparents' place, and there would be lots of family there, so I thought it would be easier to just avoid my brother, and there would be more people who might be annoyed at my brother if he decided to be a jerk, so he might not. But like every time, my brother decided to get drunk and make fun of me for my weight. He has this joke where he pulls food away from me at dinner when I'm about to take some, and he says I don't need it because I'm fat, or says I should go jog a lap around the house to earn it. He did it multiple times, and every time I told him he needed to stop acting like a jerk. Like always, my parents ignored him, but so did everyone else except my uncle, who laughed at me with my brother. I told my uncle to stop laughing because it encourages him, but he didn't. I ended up leaving halfway through dinner and taking all the presents I'd brought with me. I didn't make a fuss. I just picked up my bags and left because we hadn't done presents yet, and they were all still together in my bags. Later, multiple family members told me I was being childish and trying to ruin Christmas for everyone by walking out and taking the presents. They said I brought the whole mood down for the rest of the night, and everyone had a bad time because of me. Even though a few of them agreed my brother was being a jerk, they said they didn't do anything wrong, and I punished them for no reason. I think that sitting around and not saying anything when he was making fun of me was wrong, and I feel like if they weren't even willing to say a single thing against him or standing up for me, they don't deserve to get gifts from me. Also, I think it's a bit of an overreaction to say I ruined Christmas just because I quietly walked out and because they all got 1 or 2 less presents than they would have. Not the a-hole. Your family was more upset by losing your presents than they were with the way you were being treated. They're not worth your concern. Not the a-hole. You made a good choice by leaving. The fact that you left quietly shows a level of class and respect that your family seems to lack. I hope you find others to spend the holidays with who actually understand the meaning of holiday spirit. Find some happiness, and don't let them guilt you about it. Blood relative doesn't mean you need to absorb aggression. Not the a-hole. This is a pretty typical and bass-ackwards family dynamic. Everyone agrees that the aggressor is wrong, but they also agree that the victim should just keep quiet and keep the peace. You brilliantly asserted your boundaries without making a scene. You didn't ruin Christmas. They did, by expecting one innocent person to suffer just because no one wants to stand up to the aggressor. They ruined Christmas for themselves. They're just mad because deep down they know that they're wrong for staying quiet, and you being so reasonable just makes them look extra bad. Good job, OP. Hugs.